Hello and welcome along to this collection of some of the great Green Jumper guests in 2024.
It was a phone call. I thought it was a wind-up, but Brian Clough rang me. Is that Nigel? Yes, this is Brian Clough here. Yeah, I believe you want to come and sign for me. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. He said, great. I'll see you at the City Grad tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Don't be late. And then put the phone down.
Finished taking photographs and Cloughie turned to me and said, how did you get here, young man? And said, would you like to come back with the team? Get yourself on the bus.
We kick off this 2024 review with photographer John Sumpter. For many years, he was the official photographer for Nottingham Forest and captured many iconic photos of Cloughie, including the one in which Brian is wearing a hat, or actually a bag, with Big Head written on it. John takes up the story.
Right, well, I was given the opportunity to go down and take some pictures of Peter Taylor and Brian Clough as a test to see if I was up to the quality was fine, because they were looking for another photographer. So I got down at the designated time and ushered into the boardroom, and Clough and Taylor were sat there, and they just won the league. So it's 78, so the league trophy's there. So I did shots of them, and their families as well, actually, I seem to remember. Then Cloughie suddenly appeared with this big head hat. It's a hat or a bag.
Yes.
So he's got that on his head. So that was referring to old Big Head. So I passed the test, and Peter Taylor said, this could be the biggest break you've ever had. Not realising I was going to be there for 40 odd years. So, yeah.
We've got a photo here which is just amazing from one of the match day programmes. It was January 92 it appeared. And he's in his office wearing the green top with a monkey, which is basically a soft toy called Eric the monkey. He's pointing his finger at him because Eric is sitting in his chair. So what's the story behind this one?
Well, the club journalist, John Lawson, said there's a picture opportunity in Cloughie's office. I think this is after a game. It's quite a large toy, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the life size of a monkey, really. So Cloughie's put it in his chair. It's got a cigar in its mouth, and Cloughie's pointing at it, having a laugh and a joke, which I took the photograph. But that was used by the Daily Mirror without my consent. And it was on the back page, half a page illustration in the Mirror on the Monday morning. And I was a bit worried that I'd get in trouble for it. And it said, the caption was, top banana, and there's Cloughie pointing at the monkey and saying things. So I got onto the Mirror, and they said, well, we tried to find you, but we couldn't at the game. So we used it anyway. But I insisted that they paid me, which, to be fair, they did.
Good, yeah.
And Brian Clough never mentioned it. So they offered to write a letter to say I'd not given them permission, but I said, we'll see what happens. And nothing happened to my release. So
he was happy with it, really, I think, yes. Because it says in the programme that this big soft toy that's monkey that's wearing a flat cap as well was a Christmas present from his daughter Elizabeth, and it had taken up residence in his office. And it starts, the article starts, listen here, you young monkey. If you think you're getting my job, you've got another thing coming. You have to be a bit sort of persuasive and confident, don't you, as a photographer, really, to make sure you get what you need.
I think so, because my father was a wedding photographer, so that was my early training as on weddings, and you have to organise weddings. And I think I transferred that technique over to when I was photographing Brian Clough and footballers.
Yeah. So looking back, how will you sort of remember your days photographing Brian and the team and all those wonderful trophy successes?
As a Forest fan, to be paid to do that and go to places like Madrid and Wembley, you can't buy that, can you? So it's wonderful memories, actually. So, very fondly.
Another guest was a former player who turned down Alex Ferguson in order to play for Cloughie. Nigel Jemson was with Preston at the time and told me what happened.
I think Norwich City were the first club to put a bid in for £100,000, which obviously the club turned down straight away. And the club, I think, needed really to sell me for financial reasons. And so there was a lot of interest around. I knew Nottingham Forest, maybe one of those clubs that was interested. And obviously, from afar, you know, I used to see Cloughie on TV with his green jumper on and everything else. And, you know, he's a sort of characteristic manager that I wanted to play for, who played football the right way. But then suddenly Manchester United came in, which they agreed a fee of £250,000 with the football club. But Alex Ferguson just said, can we have a couple of days for him to come down and have a look at? So when John McGrath, the manager at the time at Preston, told me I'm not keen on going, I think everyone who knows me know that I can't stand Manchester United for a start. But obviously the reasons that obviously that the club needed the money, I decided to go and see what it was like. I went the first day, met Alex Ferguson down at Carrington. We had a practice game and did well. And then I came back home. Mum and Dad asked me how it went. I said I didn't really enjoy it. And then there was a phone call, which obviously I went to answer. And I thought it was a wind-up, but Brian Clough rang me. I think they got an away game in London somewhere. I think it might have been QPR, I think. And obviously, he came on the phone saying, is that Nigel? Yes, this is Brian Clough here. I believe you want to come and sign for me. And I said, well, yes. Obviously hesitant because I didn't know whether it was him or whether it was one of the players having a prank with me. But I said, yeah, I'd love to. He said, great. I'll see you at the City Ground tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Don't be late. And then put the phone down. So obviously I went back to Mum and Dad, told them that was the case. John McGrath rang me and he got a driver, John McGrath, Mum and Dad and myself. We all head off to Nottingham the next morning, and no one notified Manchester United. I don't think they're quite happy about it. But yeah, so I went down and got in front of the main man and obviously then went on to sign.
Of course, you'll always be remembered for that brilliant winning goal to secure the Littlewoods Cup against Oldham at Wembley in 1990. Did you know well in advance that you were going to be playing that day?
I think so. I think that obviously I was in the team and, we just treated it really just as a normal league game. We did our usual thing. We trained in the morning. We went home, went to Antonio's for our pre-match meal, which was, probably soup or prawn cocktail. And then it was, a fillet steak with lots of chips and then possibly a dessert if you wanted it. And then, you got back on the coach and there was crisps, there was chocolate, there's Coke and everything else there you could eat. And you got to the normal, I think it was South Mims Hotel that we usually went to for London games. And so it was pretty much, stay the same really. And then obviously got to Wembley. We did get there a little bit early to soak up the atmosphere and everything like that, and going down the old Wembley way and everything like that. It was brilliant, and seeing all the red shirts there, and I was 20 years of age then. To play in a major final at 20. On a selfish note, to score the only goal was a perfect scoreline for myself. One where, again, I was a confident striker. I put £50 on myself to score the first goal, 8-1. So that was nice. But most importantly, for the club to win back-to-back League Cups was an incredible achievement. Not only by the manager but by the football club. I'm still actually the last scorer of a winning goal in a major final for Nottingham Forest, which is great, but I'd love someone else to take over that mantle because it means that we're winning trophies again, which for myself will be the ideal scenario.
Another classic photo of you I found on the front page of the matchday programme for the following season's campaign against Queen's Park Rangers. There you are, kissing the trophy. Can you remember how you felt at that point?
I can remember doing an interview straight after the game with Gary Newborn, saying I had to pinch myself because it was just so surreal and it was like a dream come true. And again, people, I get a stick for the goal, saying they call me Tapping Dave because I couldn't score on the first attempt and it was the second attempt. But to be honest, I don't care how it went in the back of the net, and then being able to celebrate in front of all the Forest fans. Was something special. Seeing the whole family there, friends and everyone else. It was just a dream come true, and a day that, like I said, will live me till the day I'm dead.
Yeah. And you were in the matchday programme for that final. I've got a copy here, and amongst all the Nottingham Forest player profiles, there's a whole page with your picture on it. Do you think it was written in the stars?
That's probably to get my big head on it, wasn't it? A page like that. But no, I don't know. Again, like I said, a young lad that had come into the team, scoring goals. So, it's. I think it's a perk of being a striker. I think. But I'm surprised you managed to get hold of a programme, because I thought I took all of them. I thought my mum and dad had bought that many. Just a wonderful day for my family as well.
Yeah.
And it's like I say, luckily for me that it's in the history of Nottingham Forest, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
Nigel also spoke about being left out of the 1991 FA Cup final side and how he almost rejoined Forest after signing for Sheffield Wednesday. And it was while he was a Wednesday player that Clough sent him a bouquet of flowers following a car crash which left him needing treatment in hospital.
That was Cloughie to a T. He was that sort of fella. He used to send my mum a bouquet of flowers every year with a Christmas card. So that was the class of a fellow, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as we come to the end of this interview, I just wanted to show you this, which might bring a smile to your face.
It already is.
Now then, for our listeners, it's a programme from May 1988, and there's an 18-year-old Nigel Jemson picture standing by the side of the River Trent with his arms folded and a sweatshirt on, and there's a profile piece on the other page. It says star player profile, and I wondered if I could see whether you can still remember some of the answers that you gave when they asked you for this profile. Bearing in mind it's May 1988, so your favourite footballer at the time?
Gary Lineker.
No, same club, I think, but not Lineker.
No, I don't get it.
No, can't remember. Frank Worthington.
Oh, I actually played with Frank at Preston North End. No, I've never got that. I thought I always said it was Gary Lineker, because obviously I looked up to him, with his goal scoring record.
Yes.
But Frank was an absolute legend. Honestly, again, he's sad to say he's not with us either. I can remember him coming in when he signed, and it was peeing down with rain. He got this trilby hat on, this long Mac, and underneath it got like a vest and a pair of shorts. But he used to go out every day, before training with a bag of balls. He was training on the artificial pitch, halfway line, and he used to just knock balls into the goal without bouncing, and it was incredible. But what a player he was.
Yeah. And your favourite other sportsman at the time?
God, you test me now. This is 36 years ago now.
Yeah, it's a long. But
I can't remember what I had for my tea last night, and you're asking me about this. Other sportsmen.
It's to do with golf.
Tiger Woods.
Probably
that was too soon.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah. Nick Faldo, was it?
That sort of era. Ian Woosnam.
Ian Woosnam, was it?
Yeah.
Welshman. Did I really say that?
Yeah.
Wow. I think I might have to retract that one.
It was great to hear from European Cup winner Ian Bowyer. He described how Cloughie's insistence on relaxation between matches was one of the keys to success.
Well, I think it's common knowledge now that the top athletes, the Olympic athletes, they go away and do warm weather training, and there has to be something in it. Perhaps we were ahead of the game in terms of understanding that. We used to not get knocked about on the training ground. We used to save most of our energies for the game, and he was an absolute master at preparing you for games. It's an old story, isn't it? Once the glass is empty, you've no more to give, then you are far better to save a little bit. And we saved from game to game, and we didn't get hammered at the training ground. We saved our strength and our energies for the big games.
In fact, I think he used to tell players off if they trained too much, didn't he?
Yeah, I can remember him telling Frank Clark off if Frank had been training.
Yeah. Now, while we're talking about breaks away, I've got a picture here of the team 1980
And there you are with the rest of the team on the sand dunes in Jersey before the League Cup final.
Yeah, against Wolves.
Do you remember that?
I do. It was the longest trip ever. It was a drag. It was, honestly, obviously, because of the result that followed, it became the worst trip ever. But I can remember it distinctly because it was the week that Cheltenham races were on. And footballers being footballers, we want to sit in front of the television and watch Cheltenham races. Well, there were Peter and Brian. We ended up going here, there and everywhere. We were proper tourists. But, yeah, we didn't enjoy it too much. I think that's fair to say.
We also talked about his winning goal in the European Cup semi-final second leg against Cologne after the dramatic 3-3 draw in the first leg.
The 3-3 battle at the City Ground was probably the most exciting football match I've ever taken part in. We were 2-0 down. We get 3-2 up, including a John Robertson header and an Ian Bowyer right footer.
Yeah.
And then the Japanese boy Okadira comes on and scores an equaliser for Cologne, and you know the next day's headline is Jap sub sinks Forest. But we were never of that opinion. We thought we'd go there and put up a really good show, despite what all the media were going to say. And we were going along and we were doing okay. And then I think it was about the 69th minute. Yeah. We got a corner and John Robertson chipped the ball to the near post. Gary Birtles flicked it on and I got my head to it and put it in the net. And we survived the last 20 minutes. Peter Shilton made a great save right near the end. And we were in the final, which was fantastic. You know, here we are, 2 years after being promoted, we've won the league, and now we're in the European Cup final. Yeah. Incredible.
Obviously, Cloughie at the time had said, I hope anybody's not stupid enough to write us off. Was that the message that he was telling you?
Absolutely, that was the message. But I don't think we needed telling that much because we were a decent team. We didn't defend particularly well on the night. We had one or two lads that had come back into the team for the second leg. So we thought we were stronger team than the first leg. And we managed to defy all the media.
And that's when, of course, Cloughie said you were worth £1 million for that goal. You must have felt $1 million as well, really, to get that sort of praise.
Well, yes, it's always nice that any manager gives you a bit of praise and a bit of credit. It goes a long way. So we all need a little tonic, and that was great.
You always had a good relationship with him, didn't you, on the whole? Is that right?
I got off to a bad start with him. Not a bad start, but I was out of contract when he came in 1975, in the summer of 1975. And I told the PFA what was happening in terms of the offer that the club had made me. And the PFA said, that's all right, you can have a free transfer, you can just walk away. Now, at the time, I was playing up front, and we went to pre-season tour of Northern Ireland, and we scored 6 goals. I scored 5, and the other one was an own goal. So I'm in dispute about contract, although I think now I'm in a stronger position. And the club appealed against the free transfer I had, and we went to a meeting in Lancaster Gate, the FA, in London. Myself and Ken Smales, the club secretary, came with me on the train, and Brian was driven to London by his mate. And I can remember Brian didn't particularly want to go into this meeting. I think he had the famous green on, a pair of shorts at Lancaster Gate.
Nice.
And I do remember when our case had finished, we all walked out together, and I can remember the taxi driver shouting to Brian, Cloughie, have you lost your dugout? So I don't think he particularly enjoyed the day, but we managed to agree on something, and I'm thrilled and delighted to say that, it was the best thing I ever did was to stay.
It's always great to hear from fans and their memories of the Cloughie era. And one fan who said hello after the Green Jumper Live event that we had in Nottingham was Amanda Stanger, who's on the line now. It was great to meet you, Amanda. What are your memories of Cloughie?
Well, obviously, my footballing days there, as a supporter under Cloughie were the best ever, and 2 European Cup finals, which I was honoured to go to. I only met him twice. I was always in awe of the guy, but I was very honoured to be invited to his Freedom of the City at the council houses when he was given the Freedom of the City. So that was quite an event, and for me to see the players there and speak to Cloughie only very briefly, was just amazing. The one funny story that I did when I did meet him was I used to work in Derby, and every morning I'd call at his paper shop in West Bridgford, and I'd parked there this particular morning behind a car. And I came back out, and there's this massive Merc parked right up to the front of my car. So I'm sat, and I couldn't actually get my car out. So I'm sat in my car, chuntering away about who's parked here. I can't get out. I got this tap on the window, and it was Mr. Clough. And he said, "Oh, I'm ever so sorry." I said, "Oh, it's okay. Don't you worry. You leave it there as long as you can." So that was my closest meeting with him. But he was just a wonderful person, an amazing manager.
You mentioned the Freedom of the City Day when he was sort of given a tour of Nottingham, went up to Woollerton Hall, I think, and then obviously the ceremony at the council house. That was quite an emotional day, wasn't it? Because he was looking towards retirement at that point.
Yes, he was. And to be honest, I don't think he was a well man at that either. I think time had taken its toll amongst other things. But, he was still there. He was still his normal self with his, with his one-liners and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it was an amazing day, and one that, I will always remember, and honoured to be there as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember talking to the TV reporter Keith Daniel, who was there for that Freedom of the City event, and he went into the council house. I think it was in the ballroom where Cloughie was sort of giving a speech, and he said he was so inspirational in what he was saying that by the end of it, if he'd have told Keith to jump off the council house balcony, he would have done. It was such a great orator. Were you there for that?
Yes. Unfortunately, my memory goes against. I can't remember much about it, But
yeah.
I think Cloughie was that kind of person that he walked in the room, and that was it. He took over that room. I don't think he even had to say anything. It was just a walk in the room, and wow, there's Brian Clough. And even when I came to see you at Netherfield there, I can listen to Cloughie stories all night. It doesn't matter whether I've heard them once or 100 times, they still make me laugh. And a lot of them make me cry as well. But yeah, just an amazing guy, and, a sad loss to football.
There were also some great memories from Martin Underwood, a fan who met Cloughie several times.
The stories galore. I mean, the biggest one I can remember personally of meeting him was when I was a mascot. So way back in 1984, not at the City Ground, the baseball ground, on a cold October evening. It was Steve Powell's testimonial. And being a little boy, and you're left on your own for a bit. And I was 8, and I didn't know where I was. I didn't really, And I was sat. I'd got changed. I was in my Forest kit with my big Wrangler sponsorship across the middle, and this chap came into the room, and at the time I didn't really know who it was, and I looked up, and it was Mr. Clough, and he said, as he does, how's you young man going to be a mascot for us? And he basically just grabbed my hand, took me into the changing room, wrapped his arms around me, sat me on his knee, and he said, "It's going to be a great night. Don't worry about it. You're going to have lots of fun." So he actually, the weirder memory is he gave me a Treebor mint, and I don't know why I remember that, but he just looked after me and just spoilt me while I was there. And obviously, I got to sit with the players, and then I had a good kickabout with him and with Nigel as a young lad as well. And we just had a lot of fun. And I say it just showed the human element of Mr. Clough that sometimes we hear about, but we don't necessarily feel. We always hear the brash comments and the cocky comments, which is the bit we love about him. But he was such a gentleman, such a lovely guy as well. And that, for me, that was the main one. And the other big one really was being a ball boy next to him in the dugout. And a number of times I will be told off if I went too close to the dugout to go and retrieve the ball, because he liked to retrieve the ball. So, again, but lovely guy, lovely man.
Martin and Amanda also spoke about the impact of the Hillsborough disaster and why Amanda set up a group for Forest fans who were there on that terrible day.
28,000 Forest fans there, and most of us have struggled on a daily basis with what we saw, what we witnessed at Hillsborough.
It's always there. It'll always be in your head. It'll always be in your mind. We can now start to deal with it because we're seeing that other people have perhaps gone through the same pain, the same frustrations, mindsets that I have.
I went up to Liverpool. I met the Liverpool survivors. The first meeting I went up to, I was absolutely petrified, didn't know, because we've always felt guilty. Why should we feel as we do? We hadn't lost anybody. But when I got up to Liverpool and I introduced myself, I said, I'm Amanda. I was at Hillsborough, sat in the South Stand, so Lepping Lane's End. And they just all turned around to me. Well, one guy in particular turned around to me and he went, "No, Amanda, you're a survivor." And that really made me think, actually, we are survivors. It doesn't matter that we weren't fighting for our lives. As Liverpool said, they didn't see what we saw. They didn't see the crushed faces up against this fence. They didn't see the dead bodies because they were fighting for their lives. And, we never forget the 97 that died, but there is also a huge element of us here that are still here. So I then went on thinking I need to try and do something for the people in Nottingham. So with the help of a lot of the guys, Martin being one of them, I set up this little group, and we're expanding, and I hope that we are doing some good.
Cloughie did make some controversial comments in his first autobiography about the behaviour of fans, but he did apologise some years later when the full circumstances became clear and said he'd been misinformed, and that he regretted the hurt that he must have caused because, like many others, he was taking the police account of what happened on face value. But he thanked Liverpool fans for the kindness that they'd shown to Nigel, his son, of course, who went on to play for Liverpool. And he took the players to the memorial service at St Mary's Church in the Lace Market in Nottingham.
The group that I deal with in Liverpool, and I go up every 3 months to see them at their meetings, they do not hold what Cloughie said. They're fine about it. There's no malice about it from them, and I think that's really admirable of them. It obviously hurt at the time, and that was one thing I was worried about when I went up there. But there is nothing, that they are obviously not fine about his comments, but they don't hold it against us in any way.
Towards the end of the year, I chatted to the former Home Secretary, Alan Johnson, about his memories of Brian. Here's a little bit from our conversation.
Hi, Marcus. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Now, when we met a little while back for an interview at Loudon Book Festival, I remember giving you a few multiple choice questions in the warm-up. It was things like fish and chips or curry, Coronation Street or EastEnders, and one of the questions was Brian Clough or Alex Ferguson, and you went for Cloughie, thankfully. What was it about Brian Clough that made you give that answer?
He was such a big figure. He was so articulate, so intelligent, and so successful. I think Alex Ferguson is great, and he did good things with Scottish League team even before Aberdeen.
Yes.
And well before Manchester United. But I focused on Cloughie because I was a huge football fan. And unlike some of my friends who supported the big teams and never looked any lower than what was then the first division, the top league, I was always interested in all 92 teams in all 4 leagues. And in those days, if you finished in the bottom of the 4th division, you weren't automatically relegated. You had to apply for re-election, and generally you got re-elected. And when a team didn't and went out of the league, it was a big thing. I remember when it happened to Accrington Stanley when I was a kid, and when it happened to Gateshead before, when I was very small. And what Cloughie did was take a team called Hartlepool United, who inevitably finished in those bottom places, and took them to promotion to the 3rd division. And I always say, when people say to me what a great manager Pep Guardiola is, or what a great manager, put him in charge of Hartlepool United and see how they get on. But with Cloughie, that was a huge achievement, and he was on my radar well before Derby County and Nottingham Forest because of that. What I saw as a huge achievement.
I organised the campaign for a knighthood for Brian in the early 2000s when Labour was in power. It didn't happen for various reasons, despite the support of his local MP, Bob Laxton, the Labour MP for Derby North at that time. Would you have supported the idea of a knighthood for Cloughie? He'd accepted the OBE.
I would have done. I mean, not least of all because Bob Laxton was my friend. We came from the same union, the Communication Workers Union. So Bob would have twisted my arm anyway, I'm sure. But no, if anyone deserved it, it was Cloughie.
They say every day is a school day, and for Cloughie fan Rosemary Holland, her school days had some special memories as she recalled Cloughie's visit to an awards ceremony over 40 years ago.
We're all sat on the floor, teachers are on the chairs, and then there's a top table, and that's where the headmaster and various other people were sat, and then there's this chair, and he made his own entrance. And the atmosphere was just electric. The cheering went on for quite a while before he sat down. And that particular year, it was O-levels. And he was seized of information, I don't know how, that there were fewer O-level prizes that year. I think the O-level results hadn't been as good. However, when Brian gave his speech, I mean, the speech was fantastic. But this is the point. This is the part that is most memorable to me. And that is, he stood up and he said, I think that head teachers should be the same as football managers, and you should be judged by your results. And had I achieved the results that you'd achieved this year, son, I'm not sure I'd still be in a job. And so it was hilarious. Everybody laughed. It was said in such... You know, his style was such that he could say something that nobody else possibly would ever get away with in those circumstances. But it was said, it came from such a great place because he wouldn't have been there with those kids giving those prizes out had it not come from a good place.
Now then, 2024 marked 20 years since Cloughie passed away, and episode 80 featured many memories of September 2004, including those of the chairman of the Nottingham Forest Supporters Club at the time, Paul Ellis.
The media needed people to talk to, as you can imagine. So I was at work, and for some reason I didn't notice that my phone had already rung 2 or 3 times. But eventually, my wife actually rang me to say, did you know that Brian passed away? And I think they want to talk to you. So then I looked at my phone and thought, cracky, yes, I've got 6 missed messages already. So I did ring somebody back, I can't remember who, and they said, well, could you come down to the City Ground? Luckily, I didn't have any other appointments that day, so I said to the team, I'll be gone, I might be back or I might not. So then went off down to the city ground into the main stand car park, and there were TV vans, radio vans, reporters like I'd never really seen.
Another Clough fan had been hoping to meet his hero at a forthcoming book signing. Kalwinder Singh Dinza from Derby told me what happened when he heard the devastating news.
It was a week after my birthday, and I think he died a couple of days before him and Archie Gemmell were going to attend a book signing at Waterstones in Derby, and I was planning to go, right? I'd never met Clough before. I'd never met any of the Derby legends before, and I was quite a nervous person back then, a bit shy, and I wanted to meet my hero, Brian Clough. So I was hoping to see him at Waterstones, get my book signed. I mean, I've got so many books on Clough.
Many Cloughie fans can sort of remember what they were doing and where they were on that particular day. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I was on my computer at home, and I was just on the internet. These were like the early days of the internet, you know. But my sister came in. She's like, "Your hero's passed away." I was like, she goes, "Brian Clough." I swear my heart just dropped. I was like, I was going to see him tomorrow or whenever it was. And I went on the internet and I saw the stories, and my heart just sank a bit. I wasn't able to like see my great hero and just thank him and say, you know, thank you for everything you did at Derby. Thank you.
That 20-year anniversary was also marked by a live green jumper charity event, which was sponsored by West Bridgford Colts Football Club. It was one of a number of live events during the year which raised thousands of pounds for the types of good causes Cloughie supported. Thanks again to all those who came along, and to Neil Kendrick, who compared the unscripted question and answer evenings. Here's an exclusive extract from one of them, talking about the story behind the Cloughie statue in Nottingham.
I thought a statue would be a fitting tribute, but I wanted to make sure, obviously, that the family were supportive. So I wrote to Mrs. Clough, and she left me a phone message to say it would be a lovely idea. And from that moment on, it became a life's mission, really, to make it happen. And it overtook many lives. But it was fantastic that it happened, and I obviously liaised with the family and Nottingham Forest. They said there were no plans for a statue at the City Ground at that time. I put a group of fundraisers together of people that I'd got to know over the years. Paul Ellis, who's here tonight, was the chairman of the Supporters Club. He became our chairman. His financial knowledge was vital. My wife, Sarah, had great connections with the City Council, and there were many times when it couldn't have happened without certain things going on behind the scenes and getting Councillor John Collins involved to knock heads together. So grateful for that. And there were other volunteers who are not here tonight, but Rich Fisher, who was the king of eBay and helped with all our auctions. It was very early days for things like that. So the famous story for Rich was we'd agreed to launch this auction of memorabilia at 6 o'clock one morning, and he was having trouble logging on to eBay. So he parked outside his brother's house and used his Wi-Fi to make sure the auction started on time. Trent FM were fantastic. They backed it. The BBC didn't really, even though I worked for them. Then there was Mike Simpson, a great volunteer, wholehearted fundraiser. Mick Mellors as well from the Supporters Club, who's no longer with us. Thanks, Mick. And Paul Lowe as well. It was a great team of volunteers. We worked tirelessly. In the days before online fundraising, events, badges, sweatshirts, all those sorts of things. And the banners that were displayed around the city when Cloughie died, they were auctioned off as well.
Whether you're into football or not, That statue really enhances our city centre, and you all should be remarkably proud of what you've done. It's fantastic. Thank you. Fantastic.
These live Green Jumper evenings also included 3 literary events, with visits to the Newark, Loudham and Derby book festivals. And I'm pleased to say there are more events coming up during 2025. Look out for more details on the website. I was also interviewed about the anniversary on BBC Radio across the East Midlands. The host was Chance Litchfield.
I'm very much pleased to say Marcus joins us now. Hello, Marcus. Thank you very much for your time today.
Hello. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure. So I feel a little bit stupid asking this question, but, you know, what was so special about Cloughie?
You know, he was the most charismatic figure in football, and his achievements in the sport obviously speak for themselves. In my opinion, he was the greatest manager that there's ever been. Throughout his career, he turned average players into great players and great players into world beaters, and also starting with scant resources, unlike some other managers who have these magic money trees these days. But I would like to see Pep, you know, going in there with no money, having to paint the terraces like Cloughie did at Hartlepool. It was a different age, but Cloughie really started from the bottom and with very few resources, yet ended up, you know, winning league championships and European Cups.
Now, what was it like when you met him, Marcus?
Well, he had this aura around him. When he walked into a room, that sense of anticipation about what he was going to do or say next, it was just amazing. He was outspoken and unpredictable. You never quite really knew what to expect. But with me, thankfully, he was always on top form. And as a former reporter myself, he was a journalist dream. When I interviewed him, the quotes I got were just gold dust. On one occasion, he gave me a huge bear hug and a kiss on the cheek and said I'd made his day. And then on another interview, he looked at me and said, I'd like to take you around with me for the next 4 or 5 weeks because you definitely make me better looking than I am. And it's understandable, obviously. And I was flattered, actually, that Brian had said that to me. But, it was so entertaining. And people, even if they weren't interested in football, they wanted to hear what he had to say.
Thanks very much for your support over the past year. It's great the pod has listeners in over 80 countries and it's been named one of the top football pods in the world in the Sports Podcast Awards. And you can vote for the Green Jumper using the link in the show notes. I hope you can join me again soon for more memories of the great man in the Green Jumper.